Good evening, everybody. We are going to be doing some traveling at night tonight. I also wanted to give people a bit of a heads up in terms of how the rest of the week is going to go. So, Monday was a holiday, at least for Canada, which means that I'll take that off for myself. However, things have changed a little bit for this week, which means I'm going to be missing another day of streaming. In fairness, this was not something I knew ahead of time, so it's coming as sort of a last minute thing, but I do sort of want to give myself the option of taking these opportunities. So it's not a great excuse, but Mulholland Drive is going to be playing at a local theater on Friday. And I mean, I think it's the 20th or maybe the 25th anniversary of that movie. Probably 20. Let's actually take a look. Let's see when Mulholland Drive came out. 2001, so 25th anniversary. I did not realize that that was basically a kind of a turn of the century movie. I mean, I guess technically 2006 would be as well, but yeah, that one really came in. Huh. I wonder when when exactly was it released? Sorry, I'm I shouldn't have looked this up. Interesting. So, United States release October 12th. Hello, Pugborg. Yeah, we've actually played it for a couple of sessions now. So, we are already at the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui. So, apparently, Mulholland Drive premiered in May 2016 in Cannes, but the full release was actually October 12th, 2001. So, almost exactly a month after September 11th, which that has got to be like clearly that wasn't the intention behind it, but if you think of sort of David Lynch's very common return to sort of what's lurking underneath the ideal, thanks Pugporg, kind of an idealized setting, like this probably, I think probably is most explicit in Blue Velvet, but I think, I'd argue Twin Peaks is largely premised on that as well. But the big turn that Mulholland Drive takes to this much darker world, that's got to hit very, very differently in October of 2001. I didn't really appreciate that about the movie. Anyway, I think it's fair to say I'm on the Wikipedia page. Apparently, I go to Wikipedia whenever I can't find something I'm looking for the first time. So it says here in 2025, the New York Times ranked it number 2 on their list of 100 best movies of the 21st century, which I think it holds up. I think as is usually the case here. Oh, interesting. Parasite got number 1. There Will Be Blood number 3. Hmm. I don't think that's entirely wrong. Let's go through the list here. So it says 100 best, but it says top 100, and then it goes to 43 entries on Wikipedia. Okay, so the 43 entries: Parasite, Mulholland Drive, There Will Be Blood, In the Mood for Love, Moonlight, No Country for Old Men, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Get Out, Spirited Away, The Social Network, Mad Max Fury Road, The Zone of Interest, Children of Men, Inglourious Bastards, City of God, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Brokeback Mountain. I can never pronounce this correctly. Yitamama Tambien, Zodiac. A lot of David Fincher movies. Well, okay, I guess it's only 2 David Fincher movies on it. Wolf of Wall Street at twice. Wolf of Wall Street doesn't belong on this list at all. Um, Royal Tenenbaums, Grand Budapest. Okay. I'm sorry to say this. This strikes me as something written by someone who, like, I don't know. I'll say like a millennial, and is like picking all the movies that they really liked growing up. Um, that's probably unfair, but I don't know. I'm getting a bit of a vibe from this. Grand Budapest Hotel. Okay, so two Wes Anderson back to back. Boyhood. That's interesting that's the Richard Linklater. I definitely think Richard Linklater belongs on that. Yeah, Boyhood. I should maybe be clear on this. I do not feel like that is a bad choice. It does interest me though that is the choice. I guess probably before Sunrise would be a 90s movie if I'm not mistaken. But Waking Life would have been after 2000. And then again, that one's not like I like Waking Life a lot. I don't think I'd put that one up higher. I also think A Scanner Darkly is quite underrated. But again, like, do you compare that to Boyhood? I like um, I like The Scanner Darkly, but I don't know. I probably don't want to overstate the case. Yeah, it's funny because like when I'm doing the comparison, like I do think some of his earlier stuff would really be the one you want to hold up there. But again, if this is supposed to be the list of best movies of the 21st century, you can't put his like 90s stuff in it. So, um, her, Phantom Thread, um, Anatomy of a Fall, adaptation. That's a good choice. I would actually say I feel like adaptation should be higher, and not just by like knocking out some of the other choices, like Inglorious Bastards. Really, the 100 best movies of the 21st century. Um, The Dark Knight. Eh, I mean, looks like there's only one Christopher Nolan movie on here, and you're telling me The Dark Knight is his peak? No, it's fine. It's just like no, and it is above Arrival by Denis Villeneuve, a wonderful movie, but doesn't even make it into the top quartile. Okay, I see where this is going. Lost in Translation. I mean, this is definitely gonna fall in the like millennial, like probably wanted to like work in movies or something, um, or went to film school, like picking the movies that they watched growing up. But like I don't know, I think Lost in Translation is a nice movie. The Departed. Okay, so yeah, this is film school has to have a requisite number of Martin Scorsese movies. Bridesmaids, A Separation. I am happy to see Wally on this. I generally find so comedy and animation, I feel, don't get enough credit on lists like this. A Prophet, A Serious Man. Interesting. So if you pick a Coen Brothers movie since the year 2000, first one you put on the list is A Serious Man. I like Burn After Reading, but I don't know if that's one that would be top 100 best films. Call Me by Your Name, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Lady Bird, Ye, Amelie, The Master. How many Paul Thomas Anderson movies are they going to put on here? Old Boy. That's a fun choice. I'm glad that that's on there. So yeah, I don't know. Like there's definitely some on here. Um, I think there's some on here, which are sort of like um, pick this movie and show that you're mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Um, oh, here we go. So it says under results, Parasite. Only 10 films from the list have won the Academy Award for Best Picture. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Does anybody even remember what won Best Picture this time around? Parasite, Moonlight, No Country for Old Men, The Departed, 12 Years a Slave, Oppenheimer, Spotlight, The Hurt Locker. 68th for The Hurt Locker? It feels like that should be higher. Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Gladiator 92nd. Gladiator, look, okay, so Gladiator is obviously like your dad's favorite movie, but um, it is actually, I think that is a much better movie than it gets credit for. Like, yeah, everybody's going to point to the like, are you not entertained scene and like macho and, you think about the Roman Empire the requisite number of times and so on and so forth. But there's like some real craft in the way that that script works and the way it's structured. Like, I will confess, I found it very hard um, not to see the structure of Gladiator. Or sorry, it's hard for me to look at the structure of Gladiator and not see sort of this progression through the layers of society in Plato's Republic. The opening with the wheat field and sort of moving up through the military and finally hitting to the philosopher kings. And my feeling about Gladiator has always been that it is a movie about rhetoric, that I don't think anybody really doubts Maximus's ability to end lives. But the final mission that Aurelius gives him is to make Rome a republic again, which he refused. Right, if you want to pull out your Joseph Campbell, he refuses the call to adventure. Um, he specifically says his inability to manipulate or interact with the Senate, um, and ultimately, that costs him. He is outwitted by Commodus, or outplayed by Commodus, and essentially he needs to learn the rhetoric of the arena. He needs to be able to win the crowd, right? Win the crowd, and when you'll win your freedom. That's all throughout that movie. And I don't know, like, yeah, I like the bits with the tigers. I like to see, manly men doing the manly things, but I just feel like, there's a lot of ancient Rome movies, or there's a lot of like macho movies I've watched which haven't bothered to take what I think is a reasonably interesting take on rhetoric and governance and seem to line it up with ancient thinking on those topics. And I don't think that stuff is coincidental any more than I think that it's coincidental that like technology betrays Sarah Connor constantly until the Terminator finally catches up with her at Tech Noir. You can say that, oh yeah, James Cameron got really lucky. Or you can say that maybe he knew what he was doing and didn't really draw a lot of attention to it the way that, say, Martin Scorsese might, so he winds up on lists like this. I don't even dislike Martin Scorsese that much. I just think the examples that they chose for the list are really not good. Um, anyway, sorry, I realize you didn't sign up to hear me rant about movies, but I went down this path because I was explaining that I want to watch Mulholland Drive on the big screen. So, okay, only 4 animated films appeared on the list, with Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away as the highest ranking animated feature to be on each list. Other films include Pixar's WALL-E, Up, and Ratatouille. I think that deserved. Like, I think I talked about this on stream before. One of the things I really like about Pixar is that it can do, it's like comedy and the idea of going blue. So like I like alternative comics. I like the filthy stuff. I laugh when I watch The Aristocrats. I like Frankie Boyle. It's, or Bill Hicks or George Carlin. Like, it's stuff with a hard edge. It's foul. I think a lot of them are really, like, they're smart. They're quite good at what they do. Um, but like, it's not the sort of stuff it's I'm going to say that it is not accessible to everyone because not everyone wants to have to deal with that or hear that. And I mean, maybe this is just I have some religious family members, but like I know there are going to be some who don't. Why isn't Whiplash on this list? Maybe it is, and I just haven't seen it yet. Um, but anyway, I did get a chance to see. I think it was on like Full House or something like that. I think I've told this story before, but like I actually got to see one of them, and he's known for doing clean comedy. I don't think I have laughed more at a live comedy performance than that particular one. And it really got my attention. Like again, I still like I mean I like what I like, right? And there's no point in pretending otherwise. Like my tastes I mean I just spent so much of time talking about Gladiator. Like my tastes are not always high class. I think it's good to be honest about that. Particularly if you aspire to do any kind of creation, because you know you're going to have a hard enough time like making stuff on your own. Putting on airs about what people will find respectable is probably not going to help you on that journey. But I think that was really, to me, that was really eye opening to realize that I had sort of developed a certain bias just because of the stuff that I was saying. And, you know, it makes sense, right? You know, you like George Carlin, maybe you'll go and you'll look for someone else along those lines. But it did actually, it made me realize how like the seven dirty words isn't really that hard to do. Like when Carlin does that, that's at a time when you can't actually say those words. Whereas a lot of people want to take the mantle of that, but they are pushing on an open door. No one's actually stopping them from saying any of those things. And of course, the real the real gift for a lot of the people who are innovating in that space was they were able to sort of identify the thing you can't say or the unexamined premise. I mean, I'm not probably not the one to give like a lesson on comedy, but you know, there's always going to be people who don't quite realize what was going on with those, but will want to try and take the rewards from it. I mean, I think you could probably make a living doing it if you have other talents, but I'm not sure you're going to be one of those enduring talents like some of the others. I actually had a reason to bring up Stan Freberg at a writers group on Tuesday. I guess he'd be an example of um, clean comedy because you could put it on commercials. But I actually also think he had some of the earliest material on political correctness, which is still very fun to listen to. Anyway, only 3 documentary films appeared on the list: The Act of Killing, Gleaners and I, and Grizzly Man, which is a shame because I really feel like if you've got 100 films, you probably have room for War Photographer, which is about James Nachtwey. The highest ranked female directed film on the list is Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall, although Katja Lund appears as co-director of City of God. I didn't know that. The work is mainly attributable to Fernando. Really? What? Huh. I could have sworn City of God was directed by someone else. Anyways, doesn't matter. So 5 directors count: 5 for Christopher Nolan, 4 for Paul Thomas Anderson, 4 for the Coen brothers, 4 for Alfonso Cuarón, 3 David Fincher, 3 Quentin Tarantino. Way too many for Tarantino. 2 to Wes Anderson, 2 Bong Joon-ho, 2 Jonathan Glazer, 2 Spike Jonze, 2 Ang Lee, 2 Richard Linklater, and Martin Scorsese. I gotta look at this full list. I wish they just gave me the full list rather than. Okay, so Amelie, The Master, Old Boy, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Moneyball. I feel like both best of the century. I don't know. Roma, Almost Famous. I think that one has a really nice moment with some Philip Seymour Hoffman. Okay, this is a great choice. The Lives of Others, but at 48. like put that one, just knock off The Wolf of Wall Street and put The Lives of Others there instead. Before Sunset, so one of the before movies is in there. Um, Up, 12 Years a Slave. I feel like Up was the start where like Pixar was very deliberately trying to make you cry in every movie. The Favorites, Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit of Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. Not the longest movie title to be nominated for an Oscar, by the way. Pan's Labyrinth, Inception, Punch Drunk Love, Best in Show, Uncut Gems, Tony Erdmann. Okay, Whiplash was number 60. Kill Bill Volume 1, Memento, Little Miss Sunshine, Gone Girl, Oppenheimer. I feel like Oppenheimer could be rated higher. Spotlight. Man, actually, yeah, just The Dark Knight in like the upper quartile, I think it was, and Oppenheimer in like the third quartile. Give me a break. Spotlight, Tar, The Hurt Lockers at 68, Under the Skin, Let the Right One In, Ocean's 11, Carol, Ratatouille, The Florida Project, Amour, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Everything Everywhere All at Once, After Sun, The Tree of Life. Is that the first Terrence Malick on the list? I think so. Vulver, Black Swan, The Act of Killing. It's gonna be weird if Requiem for like Black Swan's on and not Requiem for a Dream. Not that I'm necessarily saying one's better than the other one. Just looking at the taste of movies on these, I kind of feel like Requiem for a Dream would be on it. Inside Llewyn Davis, Melancholia, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, Past Lives. I am noticing the number of comedies is kind of low on this, but that's to be expected. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Is the first one of that trilogy the best one? Kind of feel like it's an upward trajectory for those ones, although they do get longer. The Gleaners and I, Interstellar, Francis Ha, Fish Tank, Gladiator at 92, Michael Clayton. That's a good choice. Minority Report definitely should be high. I feel Minority Report is definitely recognized. I don't think people quite appreciate exactly what that movie was doing. I think it tends to be underrated, even though it is recognized. I would say I'm still a little weirded out in terms of what Colin Farrell's doing in the movie. It kind of feels like his character never quite finds his purpose in the movie. That is a really good one. I don't know. I think it's easy for people to dismiss like a Tom Cruise or a Steven Spielberg movie, even though both of them are very clearly like top tier talents. But I think Minority Report, even with that, high wattage of star power with it, still punches above its weight. The Worst Person in the World, Black Panther, Gravity, Grizzly Man, Werner Herzog finally showing up at 98 of the greatest 100 movies of the century from the New York Times, Memories of Murder, and Superbad. I'll grant it I do like the fact that they included some comedies on it. There are some lists I will see like this that like I'll look at it and then I'll say, yeah, but like which one would I have changed? And it's sort of like, you can maybe see a few of these things go like up and down, or maybe you'd like tweak around the edges, but you kind of, I think the thing is that if you're honest with yourself, you need to admit, yeah, you know what, these are like really solid and defensible choices. I think there are some really weird priorities in terms of like the ordering. And I think there's just some downright wrong choices in terms of what this is trying to be. So I don't know. Now I'm going, having spent a half an hour on this, clearly what the internet really needs is another opinionated man talking about movies on YouTube. We're going to go and play Traveling at Night. Anyways, that long digression was really about me saying I would like to see Mulholland Drive on the big screen. My opportunity is late Friday night, and that means I will take the day for myself. And so this is the one look at Traveling at Night that we're going to get today. And I do apologize for that. I certainly would not have designed it so that I'm taking a holiday on Monday and then, taking the day off on Friday. Sometimes it seemed to me like there were just trees, but sometimes it seemed like we were walking over a broken stone floor inside a big, big building with columns all around us, rows and rows of columns that stretched off into the night, one hell of a lot farther than I could see. Gene Wolfe, The Land Across. These are always a little treat whenever I sign in. So many updates. This is the RC build for the demo. Demo is out Monday the 10th in a week. This means your beta keys will stop working at the weekend. If you're nearly at the end and want to finish it, do so now. The demo will invalidate older saves. Cool. So, yeah. This is it. We're probably not going to get to the end. But I am going to... Javier should now have his grave accent everywhere. As an Englisher, I keep forgetting to add it. I've taken plenty of time to just babble on about other influence. By the way, if I'm going to skip stream for something, I feel that this audience would appreciate me skipping for a David Lynch film. I think I might have done this once before for watching Fire Walk with Me. I really thought that was worthwhile, so I wanted to do that for Mulholland Drive. I'm concerned I might be getting overwhelmed by the music again. Let me just take a quick look at the options. No, that's back. One thing I will say for Weather Factory is I think all of their games, like from Cultist Simulator to Book of Hours, I remember when I first opened Book of Hours and heard the music that they chose. I think they do a really good job of their title screens in terms of, like, I just feel the excitement or the interest when I'm opening up the game and sort of playing for the first time. So it's kind of exciting. All right, you've all been very patient with me. I do kind of need to go to the bathroom, but we'll see if I can hold on for the break, and we'll see if we can make some progress. So let's take a moment. Okay. Let's So we've got creating something sinister. To advance another plan, I could use an item that has the wither aspect. A midnight mark would be perfect. But I think that was for the buried heart. Heart's desire. I must find Nina Lagasse. My heart's been very clear about that since the day I returned to the world. Nina, as they say, knows where the bodies are buried. Dr. Aubier declares he will tell me where to find... where to find Nina if I stay a few days at the Sanitarium and attend sessions with him. Aubier, however, has already reneged on one arrangement. There are likely other possibilities at the Sanitarium to winkle the information out. I can compel Dr. A. If I can't win Dr. Aubier's cooperation, perhaps I can compel it. I've learned that he is accepting inducements from his residents to provide black market goods. He probably wouldn't want this to come out. Dr. Aubier keeps a close secret of where to find Nina Lagasse, but in dreams it's difficult to keep secrets. Offer the presence that calls itself Dr. Sinombre has offered to convey me to Aubier's dream if I meet its requirements. Secrets of Dr. A. Somewhere Dr. Aubier must keep records of his previous patients, but there's no sign of anything like that in the office where he meets his patients. Where does he keep his records? There should be something in there about Nina. And the Wandering Heart, Madame Zelia has asked me to find her husband, who ran off or was taken by another woman to another city. Beyond that, details seem scarce. And circumstances, so I've already paid the bill and the gambling. Full humidor, left Strathcoyne's Churchill's untouched. Strathcoyne's arm. Apparently Strathcoyne's semi-independent appendage has been nicknamed Annabelle. Strathcoyne really doesn't like that. Reacquainted with Vincent. Vincent remembers me as Honore Robichon, the name I was using when we met in the Legion. And Andre's other interests. Andre, proprietor of the Librairie des Heures near the station, is not only a bookseller. I've made a useful connection with the bookseller Andre and can buy her other wares. The director of the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui smiles at me from behind his desk. Hello again, Monsieur Hobson. Do sit down. So, what shall we talk about today? Something I've seen. Go on. There's a painting of the Mansus on open display in your library. The Mansus, a particularly fascinating symbology superstition, and psychologically potent, extremely potent. You are right to identify a certain risk to the fragile psyche, even when we have, of course, discarded the esoteric myths around the symbol. But fire is also perilous, no? And we keep fire in our library, safely behind a grate. Didn't the painting come from Hush House? It is possible. Hush House is a private library, is it not, in England? The patrons of this institution have connections with other institutions of learning, especially those that deal in onteriological matters. Was there anything else? I don't think I'm ready to compel Dr. A yet. Nina Lagasse, again. I wonder if you find it comforting, perhaps. I mean that in these times, all of us must make hard choices, decisions about where to take our lives. While you are so fixated on Madame Lagasse, do you need to consider other matters? You do not need to consider other matters. You are like a questing knight, perhaps, freed from the quotidian. What a lot of tripe psychiatrist talk. I suppose, in a sense. Dr. Aubier approves. I see. He makes a note. Nothing more for now, Doctor. Al bientôt. Okay. One human eye tracks my movements. 3 other eyes glitter. Mr. Hobson? Strathcoyne wears a fixed smile which suggests a kind of chilly benevolence. His arm's expression is harder to read. Good day, Mr. Strathcoyne. I think I've exhausted my dialogue options. I think I am willing to go to bed. And I feel like we probably should set the alarm. I didn't notice the Mansus image. An unusual device displaying the current time in black glyphs on white tiles. As I watch, the 2 smaller tiles at the end flip regularly, updating the time display to the precise second. Flip. Set an alarm to wake in the middle of the night. Click, whir, click. If I sleep in this bed tonight, I'll wake at midnight, sacrificing a restful sleep for the ability to explore untroubled by busybodies. Flip. Actually, you know what? I am going to get a good night's sleep just to see what that does to my effects, my statuses. And then the next night we can go to the Mansus. If I rest in this bed tonight, my sleep will remain undisturbed. Goose down mattress, plump pillows, warm blankets, kindly provided for by the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui. Troubles? Sleep to cure them. Troubles need sleep, louche, lie back, close eyes. Sleep cures troubles, and it is only possible when Spencer has at least one trouble. Pain becomes weariness, weariness fades, dread and fascination cancel each other out, any leftover dread or fascination will fade, but may cause dreams in the process. Traces are an exception. Traces don't allow sleep and aren't cured by sleep. In fact, sleeping in the same place more than one night creates a trace. Interesting. My study of silence has taught me ways to wake from sleep. Wake from midnight. This will advance the following morning unless something wakes you. No, we'll go for the azure day to indigo half day to silver pricked cat black of Côte d'Azur night. Down into the place beneath night and heart. These are the black halls of sightless sleep. This is the first night I've spent here. Unless I move on tomorrow, I might attract attention. Spencer won't gain a trace in his first night anywhere. Recovery weariness fades. At 0 weariness, my languor has gone. Fear and fascination war and wane. Dread and fascination cancel each other out. If you have more than one than the other, this might cause dreams before it fades. Gained bright dreams, wolf dreams, lost bright dreams, lost wolf dreams, lost fascination, lost dread. At 0 fascination, my chrysophoria has faded. At 0 dread, my unease has dissipated. Snow whitened sleep corners. Struggle. The dream moves on. Perhaps it's found better prey. Lost wolf dreams. Wake. Battle through the moment of waking confusion. Where am I? Who am I? A circumstance has changed. Nights in the same place. Spencer's slept overnight, safe as long as he moves on the next day. Morning rights with 0 is -1. I'm Spencer Hobson. And I'm in the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui. Ready for all the little ceremonies of a gentleman's morning. Make the bed, as I had to in the seminary long ago. Or leave a snowy swirl of disordered sheets. Someone else will make the bed. Tuck and straighten the bottom sheet. I can't be bothered with all this. No. Top layers smooth and flat. Corners neatly mitered. Pillows straight. There. Acted with passion, honor. In the corner of the room, a massive bathtub, a minimalist brass mixer tap, Parisian bath salts, clean, warm, fluffy towels. I don't really need another bath just yet. See if I can have another conversation before we go too much further in. A wiry, handsome man, his eyes are hidden behind smoked glass goggles, rather like something an arc welder might wear. Sylvian! Vincent, can I ask you some questions? Ask. Gets lonely up here. Do you like it here? You know, you take what you can get. Better than sleeping on the ground or in a barn or in a ditch waiting for the spider mist to get me, or even the barracks back in Guardia. Wish they'd put me back downstairs, though. I don't know how much more of this I can take. The world's a big place. It's true, Strathcoyne won't shut up about the incorporate states. He's just waiting for his papers to come through. And I know Europe. Well, Europe's on the way out, but when it goes, I'll be here to see it go. Tell me about Strathcoyne. Poor old fool. I don't know if he wants to be cured or not. I don't think he can be, of course. I've never seen someone stop going cross. The whole business is making him surly, no sense of humor. I tell you, Mathis and I started calling that arm of his Annabelle. I don't think he likes that. Do you know Rhodia? Know her, love her, heart of a lioness, voice of a lark. She misses her country and her husband, but I don't know. Husband? Alright, let's talk about something else. But I don't know how much is left of either of them, and she likes it here. Out of the cold, she says, and the doctor is helping her with the pain. I don't think she expects ever to leave the sanitarium alive. Stinking shame. What do you think of Dr. Aubier? He's, I've known worse. Pays good. It's stinking hard to find work since the war, you know, especially somewhere like this. The sun still shines, the rain doesn't burn, no difficult dead. So it could be a lot worse, but I never know what's going on behind his eyes. You know what I mean? How do you get on with Mathis? Not the friendliest, you know, but he's all right once you get to know him. He ran with the Zazus, you know, in Paris during the enemy occupation. Ask him about Rue Bical sometime. If he likes you, he might share some stories. Your friend behind the curtain. Not my friend. Listen, Chef, I'd rather not talk about it. Vincent leaned forward and whispers. It got into my dreams last time. Plenty else to talk about. How about Bessie? Lovely girl, Bessie. I'm not her type, though. Maybe she likes some intellectual, or she's one of those. Maybe both. We have a good laugh, though. Lovely girl. I'll talk to you later. I don't necessarily want to go out of my way to talk to Sinombre, but a human height block of something brilliantly luminous, almost hidden beneath a heavy velvet drape, damp spots on the drape, drops of water on the floor, a hazy chill in the air of the room, all suggest that the something is ice. Come, cautious petitioner, Sinombre awaits. Let's hear what you bring me today. Sinombre's light pulses softly. About the dreams of Dr. Aubier. Sinombre's light pulses avidly. Actually, never mind. Sinombre's light pulses softly. I have to go. But you will not forget me, petitioner mine. Sinombre will dwell in your thoughts. Nightingale in green. A woman in green. In this part of the world, they would say she is between two ages. Her eyes are steady, perhaps a little cynical, not obviously unkind. Come in, my pilgrim. Let's hear all your news. I've been called pilgrim. Fitting, not fitting, unsettling. I travel, I seek. Yes, I am a wanderer, not a pilgrim. When I was last in the world, half the occult demi-monde believed the vagabond would soon rise in pilgrimage to the glory, but I knew well enough not to get involved. Fitting. Why don't you tell me some diverting thing? Do excuse me, Rhodia. I have to go. I'm partly trying to just see if there's more I can learn about the guests. So it's a little less clear to me who I should talk to for that. You're back. Mathis' tone is still flat, but he meets my eyes now, almost courteously. Vincent mentioned you. You know Vincent? He said I should ask you about the Rue Pigalle. My secret is out, huh? The little follies of youth. They were very different those days. Sometimes good, always different. No stories seem to be forthcoming, but Mathis is briefly lost in a pleasant reverie, and the atmosphere has thawed appreciately. For a long time, we were both in the Legion. Mathis' eyebrows rise fractionally. Vincent's all right. Vincent approves. Bye then. There is a side of me that wants to try inspecting the objects, but we'll save that for after we've had our conversations with people. Hi, Spence. What's the scene? What it is. I should go. Later. Wait, really? I'm fine, Bessie. Thank you. Huh. I'm going to make a guess here that I don't have anything new to say to Strathcoin either, but I figure he's the best option before going to Dr. Aubier. One human eye tracks my movements, the 3 other eyes glitter. Mr. Hobson? Strathcoin wears a fixed smile, which suggests a kind of chilly benevolence. His arm's expression is harder to read. Good day, Mr. Strathcoin. No point in pushing the issue, but presumably we're going to have something new to talk to. Okay, yes, there is proper music. The director of the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui smiles at me from behind his desk. Hello again, Monsieur Hobson. Do sit down. So, what shall we talk about today? Something I've seen. Go on. Never mind. Was there anything else? An acquaintance. Rodia Vlaku. We are privileged to have an artist of Madame Vlaku's stature as our guest. She's a carrion sympathies. You know what? Will she recover? I should not discuss the health of other guests, but I can say that there is some reason for optimism. Fraser Strathcoin. A man of culture. We play chess sometimes. I hope you might join our games. Will he recover? A difficult term to define where the cross nature manifests. Perhaps better to say that he will advance. The lantern long upstairs. Yes, wiser not to discuss her, even during daylight, and especially not mention her name. Silence is silver. Vincent. Orderlies come and go. Nathis? Bessie. A charming young woman with, I dare say, unsuspected depths. She's staff, or a patient, or... as you say. Nina Lagasse again. For the time being, I think we have said all there is to say on that matter. Okay, so what interests me here is it felt like the deal was... It felt like the deal was about... you know, I stay and have conversations, and that... Yeah, so I don't know, it kind of felt like if I spent some time, there would be a bit more with Dr. Aubier. But it seems like the game's kind of pushing me towards it kind of feels like it's pushing me towards one of the other options, like compelling or one of the others. I don't really feel like there's that much for me to do, and if I think if I go out into the wider world, there's a real chance that I'll get arrested. So the question is, do I want to... I can roll the dice on compelling Dr. Aubier, or I can try and steal something in his dreams. I think what I'll do here is I will... glass shelves crowded with books, plants, and what can only really be described as curios. So sea-hued glass, accept failure, gain dread and 3 lantern experience, and the shining pink crystal. And we got 3 knock experiences, chrysophoria, the first stage of a kind of delirium. So, I mean, that works for me just because they'll cancel each other out. Cat remains motionless on the sofa. Renew diplomatic ties. The Hobson cat détente is affirmed by both sides and may continue. About the dreams of Dr. Aubier. Alright, I'm ready to discuss an arrangement to enter the doctor's dreams. Then you'll offer me what for the dreams that I'll bring? You have my promise that I'll help you the next time that you need it. Ah, my sweet petitioner, how welcome you are, for that promise is all I need. I swear that I'll guide you, nor draw you from your strength, nor enter where I am not bid. On the watchman I swear it, the door in the eye, on his robe and his names and his light. When you sleep, say my name as you wait for the dark. Once, twice, a third time, no more. I look forward to meeting again on the other side of the sleep, Shining One. A pity the mansis is barred to us both. We could walk in the orchard of lights, but the war in the sun has denied us that joy. We must take what we can from what's left. Sonombre's light pulses softly. But you will not forget me, petitioner mine. Sonombre will dwell in your thoughts. So, I guess at this point, even though I just kind of went to bed, I don't really feel like there's that much more for me to do here. So let's see if we can go to sleep. Lie back, close eyes, whisper Sonombre 3 times. This won't be restful, and you won't lose troubles. Nothing obvious happens. Eventually, I drift off to sleep. And I'm here as I promised. I can't take your hand. Sonombre has passed beyond flesh. But now turn to my light and consider my voice, and we'll see what will open to you. Something opens to me. Dreams. It's gotta be Welland, right? Lieutenant Colonel A.C. Welland, Atlanta, 1865. Oil, canvas, unsigned. A glowering man in glowering middle age, nicely filling out an ornate military uniform. Is there something odd about his hair? I feel like we can use an aspect on that one. Ooh, failed by 3. Is that a wig? The painter has faithfully rendered it, slipping slightly. He's bald underneath. Forge along are hairless, of course. Welland was a forge-long with military inclinations, a member of the Society of the Noble Endeavour, who were often alchemists and generals, British royalists. What was he doing in Atlanta in 1865? And why does he feature in Aubier's dream? I will strive, Monsieur Hobson. I will achieve. I will rise. A panel of dark wood. daubed with the symbol of a closed eye. It resembles the door of the sanitarium living room, but it isn't actually a door, or I would be able to open it. And if you've seen the tongue of witches that symbol means, I don't recall. Can be difficult to understand writing in dreams. Gained dread and 3 moth experience. Back to the hallway. I really like the atmosphere of the dream here. If it were possible to do away with dreaming altogether, if only it were possible. A panel of varnished wood daubed with the symbol of an open eye. It resembles the door of the sanitarium library, but it isn't actually a door, or I would be able to open it. In the dry tongue, that symbol means... I don't recall. It can be difficult to understand writing in dreams. Back to the hallway. I probably can't get away with doing a third because that'll push me up to the 4. My duty is to heal my patients, but my methods are my own. A panel of sturdy wood, daubed with the symbol of a cross-charged heart. It resembles the door of the sanitarium dining room, but it isn't actually a door, or I would be able to open it. Back to the hallway. Now this is interesting. Oh, hang on, I am able to walk into this. So I do want to try the white door. I love the fact that you run into Cosley in this spot. Worm of Worms, My Portrait. Julian Cosley, 1924, oil panel. The unmistakably sensual, intelligent, uncompromising features of the immortal magus Julian Cosley. Quote from one of his works. Speech is a wound, silence is silver. There is no silver door, nor can there be, even in the moon's house. Cosley believed that it was language that debased the cross into mere humanity. As far as I could make out, Cosley never much cared if anyone else agreed with him. The unmistakably sensual, intelligent, uncompromising features of the immortal magus Julian Cosley. There was an ending. The Bureau believed that he was killed by a rising competitor, but a winter-long like Cosley could not die before the date agreed with his patron, any more than he could live beyond that date. Still, he was much diminished. A pity Cosley had an extraordinary mind, or still, he was much diminished. A relief Cosley was very dangerous. I mean, both are true, but let's say he had an extraordinary mind. Acted with passion, sorrow. Back to the room. I'm intrigued by the fact that I can't interact with this, but... Inside Aubierre's defenses, but not all of his defenses, Monsieur Hobson. I've been thinking about Nina, about Mademoiselle Lagasse, I mean. Thinking what? She's a very compelling person. I discovered that she only came here to learn about the Revelines. I know that she has no use for me, personally. None at all. And yet I dream of her. Dreams of a personal nature, you mean? This is a dream, is it not? How are you here? A dream about where Nina's gone. I'm not sure if I believe that. So, relax, Doctor, you're asleep. This isn't time to worry. You can trust me. Here's a dream bargain for you. If you tell me something about Nina, you'll learn something about me. If you're curious, aren't you? Believe it's true or it isn't true, and in dreams nothing is untrue. Or Jung said, the dream is the small hidden door in the deepest, most intimate sanctum of the soul, where there are worse dreams that you might experience, Doctor. Much, much worse dreams. Relax, Doctor, you're asleep. This isn't the time to worry. He smiles, tentatively at first, and then with a rush of surprising warmth. Very well. Nina travels with a circus. She left it to come here. She left here to catch up with it. The name of the circus was Rosamundi, and its next destination was the city of Imada. That is as much as I know. Nina Lagasse travels with a circus named Rosamundi. They were due to perform in Imada. Dreams of Dr. A completed. Gather experiences on the journal page. And so we're finished. Learn your lesson. Don't trifle with Spencer. Good. Now forget this on awakening. I suppose I will, won't? The bleached room around me begins to flood with color, as if paint had been dropped in clear water. I am returning to the waking world. Oh, I missed the opportunity for the white door. Something closes behind me. Waking from Mansus dreams is often painfully abrupt, like falling from the sky, or being cast up on a cold shore under a cold sun. No problem, Ether. Have a good evening. Ah, now this is good. A cute little mantis. Fitful fires flicker beneath the velvet veil. This entity is dormant, or its attention is elsewhere. Bath time? Bessie has no place to sleep. Or the orderlies don't, for that matter, either. Or Aubier. I guess they go home at night. I would have sworn I would have been able to interact with something in the... Beneath the skin of the world, we find the Mansus, also called the World Spine, also called the House of the Sun. Above the house is the glory, the origin of light to which souls aspire. At the foot of the house, and around its walls, though it has no walls, is the wood. Alright, let's see if we can find anything in Aubier's office. Yeah, so there isn't that much to interact with in here. And by the wall at the back of Aubier's office, the mirror has been placed here to catch and share the light that falls through the window. Examine the wall. There's a slightly discolored rectangle on the wall behind the mirror. Was there a door here, now painted and plastered over? Inspect it more closely. The moonlight here is clear enough to make out the edges of the discolored patch, of the texture of the paint. Cool. Examine the wall minutely. In my time on the stage, I saw a great many secret doors, hidden compartments. I suspect that there may still be a door here. Aha! The door swings inward, not only a little before it jams against something in the crowded room beyond, but the opening is wide enough for me to step through. Unbearable lightness. In the corner of the room rears, somehow half-heartedly, a great brown bear. Examine the bear. Glass eyes gleam, yellowed fangs. It must be decades dead. Perhaps the bear came with the house originally. Presumably, Aubier stuck it in here before he because he felt it didn't strike the right tone for his high-minded institution. How's it going, Woban? Examine the plinth. A plaque reads, Jerem Haute Garonne, 1895. Perhaps it was sunset when the bear died. Perhaps the scent of pines. Lay a hand on the bear's fur. Like bristly, musty carpet, with a squelch to it, as if the carpet had been laid on a rotting floor. Some sort of I'm bad with this one. Deliquescence beneath the bear's heraldic exterior. Best not to investigate too closely. Leave the bear to its shadowy solitude. Everything too battered or difficult or unfashionable to be seen in the sanitarium, it goes in here, tied it away so Aubier never has to think about it. A cracked mirror, not discarded, but kept here in this chamber of concealed business. In this battleship gray safe, footprints in the sand. In this battleship gray safe of incorporate manufacture, solid as a continent, gleaming dully in the dimness, a safe like this opens only to the correct combination, or with the correct application of explosives. Approach it. My heart and the night agree the safe will open when I turn the handle. I turn the handle. With an oiled click, the safe swings open, yawning a steel yawn. Sort through the contents. No cash in the safe, just documents. Letters, financial records, 6 notebooks. 1 is labeled Hobson. Look through the financial records. The Sanitarium receives substantial funding from the European Recovery Program, the Atchison Mission, and from a semi-charitable and corporate entity called the Menager Foundation. Very substantial funding. But there's something else. On almost every document, there's an enigmatic line item, Onteric Coordination. The Office of Onteric Coordination, the OOC? Who exactly is funding Aubier? Is the money really coming from Menager? When I was coming up from Alexandria, they dynamited the pass at Nakra, and I had to slip across the border in a Cypriot smuggler's jeep. The Cypriot got drunk enough to tell me that he was running guns for an outfit called the Office of Onteric Coordination, a covert limb of the incorporate government with a mandate to shape history. That was the first time I heard the name, but not the last. Onteriology, 5 histories once. Who braids them now that the hours go uncounted? Or coordination. The invisible hand of the market. The golden hand of incorporation. No cash in the safe, just documents, letters, financial records. 6 notebooks. 1 is labeled Hobson. Look through the notebook with my name. It's written in some sort of cipher. There's only a page and a half of notes so far. There is also an unflattering doodle of me, It's probably me. It has a mustache anyway. Sniff contemptuously. Look through the other notebooks. Sinombre, Strathcoin, Vlachos, Raveline, and Lagasse. Lagasse is her name now, the knight reminds me, but there was a time when they called her the Witch of Lagash. A flimsy slip of paper, a calendrier with the details of a traveling carnival, slides out from between the pages of the Lagasse notebook. Pocket it. Gain Rosemunde calendrier. Secrets of Dr. A completed. Gather experience at the journal page. To learn more, examine the calendar in your inventory. Close the safe and step back. Uh-oh, how do I get out? I'm by the wall at the back of Aubier's office. A wave of panic washes over me. What if the door is somehow stuck? What if I can't get out? It won't be stuck. I can get out. I can always get out. But once I couldn't, whispers the knight. Step back through Aubier's outer office. A mountain lake. A lonely figure poles a flat boat across a lake of pistachio green. Peaceful. I've seen this painting before. When I was a priest in Brankrug, I sometimes saw Christopher Alopoli in his rooms in Hush House to argue about theology and drink his horrible burdock tea. I saw it there. Gained memory, St. Melisand's Eve, Brankrug, 1919. I remember that I remarked on it, and he told me that it was a prefigure done before the war by one of the librarians of the place, someone who had the knack for copying work by other artists, but he'd copy the work before they'd ever actually painted it. So, is it the original from the house, or the actual original from what was then the future? Look closer. It's signed Levinson, but with a question mark after the signature. The prefigure then, not the later work. Look away. I will just see, I imagine it's going to be the prefigure again, but I just want to see if I can click on the diplomas. Nope. Okay. And I don't recall if I looked at this painting. Tramon von Weygand, entitled 1945, oil canvas. Another vivid abstract like the one at the door. Wasn't there another one like this back by the door? An abstract in vivid colors. Somehow it brings Nina Lagasse to mind. Nina's white shadow, again in my thoughts. Yes. Okay, so this makes me want to look for the other abstract paintings now. Antibes, before war came to the world, this was the sweet blue eye of the Riviera, yachts and parties and film star villas. Picasso painted Piero here by the sea. Okay, so I think I'm gonna travel at night. So we could go for Boscan observation with our Honoré Humanité, or we can do our Man of Mystery with Hushery and Spivery. I do like the idea of observation, but I think we should probably do the Man of Mystery outfit. Oh, and I want to turn in things, so... I must find Nina Lagasse. My heart's been very clear about that since the day I returned to the world. Nina, as they say, knows where the bodies are buried. She travels with a circus named Rosamunde. They were due to perform in Mimata, among the mountains and gorges of Luzere. Det to Sonombre. Sonombre hasn't yet asked for help. The Doctor's Nook. Oh, here we go. Secrets of Dr. A. Oh, that's interesting. So it dropped... Interesting. Okay. We get midnight. Night's in the same place. Day, night, prowl. But I'm not sleeping. To return to the daylight world, find a bed, and sleep the last few hours. So I think before I do any of that... Oh, it won't let me go outside. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to take a small break just to deal... I've got some weird sounds in my apartment, which I want to take a quick look into, but I think it would not be a bad idea for me to get a little bit of a break as well. So, lie back, drift off, bring the day, return to unrestful sleep, wake in the morning. Tousled, turbulent, murky hours. Circumstance has changed. Night's in the same place. Spencer's spent his second night in one place. He's gained a trace. Ready for all the little ceremonies of a gentleman's morning. Make the bed, as I had in the seminary long ago. Tuck and straighten the bottom sheet. Top layers smooth and flat. Corners neatly mitered. Pillows straight. There. We won't change until after we've had a bath. Huh. Did I look at this one? Archangel Saint Michael, the warrior angel. No, I didn't. Jamie Huget, Archangel Saint Michael, 1486, print, originally tempera on wood. The warrior angel, winged, impassive, harnessed for war. I remember my wounds in the Great War. Or Saint Michael is a favored name of a certain solar hour. I remember when things were clearer. Should I pray? Are you a patient here or a prisoner? I have doctorates from Leiden, Navarre, and Bonn. I'm a colleague of dear Aubier's. Sometimes. His nombre's light pulses softly. I have to go. But you will not forget me, petitioner minds. Nombre will dwell in your thoughts. I suspect I won't have anything else to say here. Kepi Days, a wiry, handsome man. His eyes are hidden beneath smoke glass goggles, rather like something an arc welder might wear. Sylvian, going somewhere? Away. Is that likely to cause difficulties for you? Heavens, no. Did Aubier put you up to this? Are you spying on me? Oh, my friend, I only wish Monsieur le Docteur would pay me enough to spy on you. Do you want to know more about where I'm going first? Are we going back to Algeria? No. Good. I don't want to go back to Algeria. Why? Easily bored, you remember me, and there are people here I don't like so much. It'll be dangerous where I'm going. Vincent guffaws. My lieutenant, we were in the Legion. All right, but call me Spencer. That's my name now, Spencer Hobson. Gain Vincent's positive skill modifiers. Huh, all right. I remember you talked in your sleep, in English. Vincent has joined you as a companion and will assist with skill challenges where he can. This is your first companion. There are others. A companion will follow you, providing always skill bonuses and occasionally opinions. Certain story options will increase the skill bonuses. Nothing will silence the opinions. So I'm slightly curious if I should say goodbye to the other patients. But before I do that, I am going to... Okay. I am going to have a small break. I've got a couple things I need to catch up on, but most of all, I need to find out what's making that noise. So I will try to be back soon, but I do just need to sort out a few things, and I'm not 100% sure how long it's going to take me. So I'll be back as soon as I can. But for those of you who'd rather not watch ads, maybe it's a good time to get up and have a drink of water or otherwise take care of yourselves. I will see you in a little bit. All right, thank you everybody for your patience. Never figured out the sound, but we'll work through it. Actually, before I go too much further, I'm going to take a quick minute and just make sure I've uploaded the relevant videos before I get too far into things. Started to do a little maintenance. This is going to sound a bit catty, which I don't intend to say. I don't quite mean it to, how do I put this? I don't quite mean this to sound the way it may. But one of the difficulties of doing something like this, like I think the origin for this comes from my general attitude towards spoilers. I don't really care. If I'm completely honest, I don't want to suggest that my preference needs to become generalized to the broader population. I know there are people who really like to point out that they don't like spoilers. And I think this is one of the big problems I have with it, which is I tend to find that spoilers become a really easy way for people to make every conversation about them rather than just enjoying the thing that we're talking about. Now, I can maybe have a little bit more space for something like a game like this, where clearly I've been given an opportunity to play it ahead of the demo, which will be coming out on the 10th. So, you know, there's a little more room for something like that. But one of the things that I've learned, and like this was true for Book of Hours, this isn't unique to this one, but chat has a tendency to become a bit like an airport. With lots of people coming in and announcing that they're not watching to avoid spoilers. And I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to do about that, right? I've never felt the need to announce to people I watch, and admittedly I watch relatively little Twitch, but I guess I've never really felt the need to inform someone that I'm not watching. And the only other time I can really think of people doing that is like when they're mad at you for some reason, probably because you like to try and enforce a rule or something, and they're letting you know they're mad enough they're going to stop watching your stuff, which again is not exactly a pleasant experience. So the drawback is that when I see the metrics on videos like this, it does seem that these are getting a bit more attention, and so I don't want to be, like I said, this is why I don't want it to sound catty. I don't want to sound sulky. I don't want to I don't want it to be like I think there are better things for me to do with my time. I think it's true that even if I just directly participate in a beta, I'm probably not producing the kinds of bug reports that Weather Factory are finding game changing. But it is a little difficult, right? Because if there's the great silent majority, it's a couple decades before we get to do that in game, but who are just enjoying the game, and I want to put on a show for them. But it can be a little difficult, especially in the opening when I'm trying to kind of get a pulse of things, when to jump into it. And so doing little maintenance things like this sometimes becomes a temptation, just because it's it's a I don't know, it's quiet enough that if there's something I'm liable to forget, I feel that I should get it done here. Open says, hello Vanguard Master, and I feel that if I were to do that, it might be to show support for the channel, but I also want to play the game myself, really glad you're online and playing games. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, but it's not really showing support to the channel if you're not around, right? There's no concurrent view, there's no, and again, nobody owes it to me, right? I want to be really clear on that. People can do their own preferences, but I've never quite figured out what the purpose of announcing that you're not watching is supposed to be, because it is the exact opposite of support. And, I need to earn it. Ideally, if I could learn my craft better, it would be a show you truly cannot miss. And the enjoyment that you get from watching this is more than, whatever perceived, loss from not being able to make it. I mean, personally, I think, for my part, I think Weather Factory is capable of making a game that's enjoyable regardless of the, um, regardless of whether or not somebody has seen something before. Like, I don't know when we kind of collectively got this idea that there's some sort of pure, pristine experience of a game that's somehow being tainted by the broadcasting of it or by watching it ahead of time. It's a very widespread version of it, and people get really annoying about it. I remember when Elden Ring was coming out, people would get mad that you would talk about a trailer for it. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, the rest of the world is going to go on and talk about the things that they're interested in. And if you want, like, you can become an anchorite. You can just chain yourself up to your computer and not experience anything, anything else in the world. But the rest of us are actually going to go on about our lives, and we do not feel an obligation to silence every conversation just because you might learn something about Elden Ring prior to release. And again, like, I want to be reasonable about it, right? I'm not going to go out of my way to say things that will, that'll change someone's view on it. But the fact of the matter is like any of the marketing material, these are decisions on the part of the creator, or at the very least the owner of the property, to reveal certain aspects of the, of it in advance. Like, they've made a decision in terms of what they are willing to show ahead of time. And like I said, I don't feel that my preferences should be generalized to the broader population. But I guess I would just say that I guess all of you need to suffer for the few minutes while I'm going to be cranky about it. But, I guess what I would say is that my status quo of talking about things that I like in a pretty transparent way, like, I think people I think people can understand when I'm talking about something that is new. And if they haven't experienced that, maybe they want to exercise some discretion. I guess the status quo that I have for this would be the imposition on someone else would come from a sorry, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. It comes through like this unintended side effect, right? Like, technically, it's a spoiler to talk about the decision that Rick makes at the end of Casablanca. Like, that is a movie where the twist at the end does actually have some content, and presumably some of the enjoyment of it is to find Rick's final decision and the change that he has made or undergone over the course of the film. But it's also one of the most lampooned endings in history. Like, you cannot watch a Warner Brothers cartoon without knowing the ending of Casablanca. I've seen the ending to Casablanca probably 3 different ways before I actually watched the movie. There was no doubt in my mind in terms of what he would do at the end of the movie. And Casablanca is still a great show. So again, it's, my individual preferences. Maybe someone watched Looney Tunes and was completely devastated by not being able to enjoy the pure experience of Casablanca as originally intended. But I don't know, like, I got over it. But the thing is that, like, when I consider the balance of imposition, right, I would certainly feel quite bad if I did something to, I would feel quite bad if I lessened someone's experience through through discussion of something that I was enjoying. It would be, it'd be nice if we lived in a world where you don't do something like that. But in the end, it's not an intended thing, right? It's a discussion about what's going on, we do our best, and sometimes that means people don't watch things in sync, and so there's a there's an unintended revelation of something that maybe somebody would have preferred to have kept kept secret prior to that. But I contrast that with the number of times I'm having a perfectly reasonable conversation with someone about something we're mutually interested in. And this can be situations where people are not even part of the conversation, but they'll be running in, la, 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 no spoilers. And like, it's more annoying than people who have full conversations on public transit or like listen to music without headphones or TikTok or whatever. Like, at what point do you just admit that you think we're all NPCs in your, your game, we're supporting actors in your main character movie? Like, it is a level of solipsism that I just can't. Well, I guess if you're telling people not to spoil, I guess it can't be solipsistic, but like, it is a level of self-absorption that I personally cannot conceive. But it actually kind of seems to be a dominant cultural position. So, I mean, I will fully acknowledge I'm out of step on it, but man, I don't remember signing up for this, and maybe it was always like this and I was just too sheltered, but it actually makes it really hard for me to talk about stuff I'm interested in with people. So and yeah, I mean, the straight gameplay, I mean, that's a thing. I think the genre is like long play. The only problem is that I don't feel I'm adding any value to it, so I might as well just, give the revenue to the game developer at that point. So my opinions may not be correct, but I will say that they're at least mine. Anyway, rants aside, let's see if we can say farewell to the other denizens. A woman in green. In this part of the world, they would say she's between two ages. Her eyes are steady, perhaps a little cynical, not obviously unkind. Come in, my pilgrim. Let's hear all your news. Why don't you tell me some diverting thing? Do excuse me, Rhodia, I have to go. Yeah, so it looks like there's nothing new. You're back. Thy stone is still flat, but he meets my eyes. Now, almost courteously. Bye. So maybe Dr. Aubier will say something new to us because we've got the information we need. The director at the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui smiles at me from behind his desk. Hello again, Monsieur Hobson. Do sit down. So, what shall we talk about today? An acquaintance? No one, actually. Something I've seen. Go on. That painting, the mountain lake, looks a lot like one I saw in Hush House long ago now. Indeed, as I recall, one of the librarians there claimed the gift of prefiguration, that is to say, he produced works that he attributed to others, but before those others had in fact produced those works. An interesting case, psychologically and perhaps otherwise. Yes, exactly. It's signed by Levinson, the prefiguring librarian. So interesting. Then I wonder, should we call this the original, or only a prophetic falsehood? Thank you, Monsieur Hobson. I will regale my other visitors with this little morsel. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any option to talk about Nina. I'll be on tour. So before I go out into the wider world, because I don't know when this ends, like I imagine getting to the Rosamundi might be a case where they say, wishlist us on Steam. Let's take a look at some of the items that we haven't finished here. So Bureau. The Suppression Bureau, an organization founded in service of the duties. The Bureau recruited me when I lived in London, and again after I left the Legion. Both times it ended badly for both sides. My fault. My superiors liked my work, but they never liked the time I spent at the Ecdysis Club. Their fault. I could never quite forget what happened at Gladwin Lake, or how it happens. The Bureau changed, and the Bureau changed me. Career. Your career focus decides what skills and passions are available to you. You can still acquire any other skill or passion with experiences later, but it's always easier to learn skills from your career focus. Skill, one has no talent. I have no talent. It's just a question of working, of being willing to put in the time. Every skill is linked to 3 aspects. This tells you something about the skill and the world. It also allows you to use the matching points from your aspect pool to get a better outcome when use of a skill goes badly. Passing a skill check will give you matching experiences. Failing a skill check will give you more experiences, but also a matching trouble. You can improve skills with those experiences. A virtuous circle, though not a perfect one. Aspects pool. Through your signs and passions, you express the fundamental principles underlying all things, which, in practical terms, means you can spend pips from your pool to force a success on a skill test that you fail. You can only do this with skills that match the aspect points you're using. If your aspect pool is depleted, then acting with the grain of a sign or passion will refresh one or more of the missing pips. Necessity, easier to forward when we burn something behind us. Confidence, there's always more pips where those pips came from. Or versatility, there's always a way forward. If I run out of pips, I'll find something else. Aspects. The nature that something might possess. Some aspects are grand occult principles like forge or lantern. Others are more practical qualities. An outfit might be warm or formal. When others touch both worlds, esoteric tools have aspects like quell or entwine, which unlock new choices. The wise know, the pragmatic achieve, the versatile face 2 ways. The wise know. Passions. Driving qualities that help you decide your goals. You start with one, you can develop another 2. Increase your passions with experiences, and they'll add more pips to your aspect pool. Whenever you act with a passion, it'll refresh a pip of every relevant aspect in your pool. To put it simply, increasing your passions and acting with them helps you pass checks on skills which match the passion. But people change. That's called character development, trauma, disillusionment, experience. So if your actions recently have drifted another way, you can spend your experiences to evolve one passion into another when you level it up. Experiences can be used to improve existing skills or learn new ones. You will need experiences that match at least one aspect on the relevant skill. Cold, an early lesson still haunts me. Harsh, an early lesson still pains me. Sweet, an early lesson still delights me. Harsh. church. The Church of the Unconquerable Sun acknowledges 4, in some contexts 5, Horae Canonicae, but has long been very definite that the inner rites of those hours are much too dangerous to be approached directly. Cosley, Julian Cosley, perhaps the most notorious Winterlong ever to trouble the Bureau. Winterlong cannot die before or after their appointed time, but Cosley was vanquished by a rising competitor, and since that time has been seen only in the strangest seasons. Yeah, I actually find it much easier to report. I do worry that I am spoiling, or not, like that I'm wasting a lot of space by doing all of the images. But one of the problems I would run into is I would try and queue up all of these bug reports to do at the end of a stream, and I'd never send them. So at least in this case here, I have a fighting chance of providing things that I'm running into. Because it was vanquished by a rising competitor, and since that time has been only seen in the strangest seasons. So, anarchist, for centuries he strove to bring down the established order of the world, the hours. Protege, he was close to Nina Lagasse. She was even rumored to have tutored him, though they were never allies. Obliviate, Cosley valued freedom above anything, even life. And a second edition, towards the end, he is said to have changed his views to something less nihilistic, though no less abstruse. For centuries he strove to bring down the established... I like the second edition, though. Cross. The Carapace cross is gone into earth, into flesh, and the traveling kinds beyond wave and sky. They are very few now under the earth, and the cross and flesh are us, some of us at least. I like that Strathcoin's sitting in the background there. The hybridity that we call the Carapace cross was gone long and far. Their nature survived only in some bloodlines, and perhaps in the darkness beyond the sky. But since the wars, the cross is creeping back. It might need crushing. The cross is growing. It might be wonderful. Changing. Everything's changing. It is inevitable. So one of the things that I'm going to say is a big strength. So I feel it is way too early to make a recommendation on this game, and I honestly think I do frequently talk on stream about by the way, I'm noticing a lot of Hush House artifacts in the Sanitarium. It'll be really interesting to visit it in the game. So I like to think that I am honest enough with myself that if Weather Factory were to make a game that weren't to my taste, I would say as much. Because I think there's also a way that you can nicely say that without, without being too much of a jerk. And I also think that particularly the way that they practice open development, that's where you give feedback and talk about what's working and what's not working. And that's an opportunity to course correct, right? It's worth remembering that before Weather Factory, Alexis Kennedy had founded Fail Better Games. And my understanding, I found out about Fallen London and Sunless Sea after Sunless Sea was a very successful game. I think even the DLC had been released by the time I finally played it. But I think the big one for me is that my understanding of Sunless Sea is that it originally had a turn-based combat system, and it was not working. And they made the decision to make it a real-time combat system. Now, I'll be clear, I don't really find the combat in Fallen London to be the reason I play it. It's a thing that I do. It's not, oh goody, I get to shoot something now. I don't think that's the purpose either. But I would say, based on what I heard, the combat in Sunless Sea as it currently is an improvement over the experience from the Kickstarter game, the early beta. From my understanding, it is also true that this was not universally accepted. That I believe there are a number of Kickstarter backers who to this day are unhappy with that decision and sort of feel like they didn't get the commitment was broken, right? They didn't get what they had signed up for. And that's a shame. I think the game was a success, so I think it's clear that they made the right choice. But it's worth acknowledging the cost. I mean, I worked at a bank at one point, and I remember I'm pretty sure it was $1 billion project. At the very least, it was if it wasn't $1 billion, it was very, very costly. And it wasn't even it wasn't the CEO. It was a head of a major division at the bank. So like if you're in a Canadian bank, like Canadian banking is like the thing that makes the money. And very often you will find that the future CEO comes from Canadian banking. And the thing is that the project wasn't ready. It was not going to accomplish the thing they wanted. And the head of Canadian banking canceled it. And this is because they understand the sunk cost fallacy, right? It doesn't matter that you spent $1 billion on it before. If it's not delivering on the result, you cancel the thing. You do not throw any more money towards it. Unless you think you're going to be able to achieve the turnaround that's commensurate to the extra money you'll spend on it. And I think there's it's a hard lesson. It's one that's very, very difficult to apply, particularly when it's like you making the choice. And, even if you're in business for yourself, you are always going to feel that pressure, right? Weather Factory, as far as I can, not Weather Factory, Fail Better, as far as I can tell, was basically very close to closing when they were doing Sunless Sea. So I can't imagine that there's any less pressure you feel. Like the number of zeros at the end of the amount is maybe smaller, but as to whether or not it's a live or die moment, I think, I imagine the pressures are very similar, if not more. And but the fact of the matter is, I think that they made the right call, and Sunless Sea was a success, and that kind of led to the path that eventually leads us here. I wonder if this is the watchful potted plant from the infirmary. So the reason I'm telling that story here is that I think, my personal read, if I were at a point where sort of like, I'm not sure how I feel about this game, which is not what I'm feeling with Traveling at Night. I kind of feel like the circumstances would be, I'd have a moment to give voice to what's not working, and then the decision would be, is this game meant to appeal to someone like me, or have we just found the limit? Because, it's not, I haven't done a lot of CRPGs on stream, right? I've enjoyed the ones that I've played, so I'm pretty sure this is very much for me because I'm having a great time with the game here. But all of that to say, right, is that was a really large scaffolding for what is actually supposed to be a very simple point, which is I want to talk about some of the things that I really like about this game and what I think it's providing that I haven't always gotten for RPGs. And there's a couple ways that I don't feel the game has risen to the occasion, but I also feel that that's going to be something that I say for the feedback that I give. So I have felt in a number of CRPGs that I need to make decisions that are in line with a specific build that I want to make. And sometimes this can create very one-dimensional characters, right? I want to boost my strength, and so I always make the strongman choices. And in particular, the worst form of this, I would say, and this is a successful game, so, they're not going to lose any sleep over me pointing this out, but I think Divinity Original Sin, particularly if you play on Tactician mode, is a very good example of a game that feels like you are penalized for not playing it the way that the developers felt it should be played. It may have this sort of lip service to the idea of making choices and building your own characters, but I think the reality of it is very often, not I think the reality is that you're going to have a hard time in the game if you don't make certain choices. And it can be even more frustrating because you don't necessarily know what the quiz is, right? You only find out after the fact you were supposed to, to build for X, Y, or Z. So whether it's the way the mechanics work, whether it's the way, whether it's just sort of a penalty you feel like you're paying as you go through the game, this is one of the pitfalls that I find in CRPGs, because in one sense, they sort of seem to be selling you on the idea of making your choices, telling your story. But the reality very much is that, if you want to have the experience you want, or if you want to have something that doesn't feel like you're fighting the game, you got to play it our way. And, I think everybody knows my favorite aspect. I'm actually curious if anybody doesn't know what my favorite aspects are in the game, or principles, I should say, because aspects are more than just the principles. But I'm curious. Like, I think it's pretty obvious, even if you have never seen my stuff, but I've definitely gone on about it for a bit. But what I find I like about it, so these individual choices, I will say I definitely like picking a choice because it sounds like the most interesting option. Even if it means that I'm getting experience in something that I don't feel like I have a significant need for, let's say. I also feel that's true. I mean, to a certain extent, I don't really know what a lot of these rewards are yet. I haven't actually gone through the whole experience process. Like, I've got experience, but I haven't gotten enough to level up the choice, to level up any of the stats yet. The other thing I'll say is that the game is pretty clear. So normally, and I think this is a departure for these developers, as far as I can tell, most, if not all of the games that they have done have been very clear about the consequences for choices, right? So, if you push this thing, you've got you see some of it in here, right? 60% chance of success. Or like, I'm thinking of Fallen London or Sunless Sea, where it'll say, you might get wounded, or you might lose something, or, it doesn't pull the rug out from under you. But what I do notice is withheld in the dialogue options here is it doesn't say this is a cynical choice. You are left to express your character the way that you want. And if it happens to align with the passions that you've expressed, then that's going to mean that you can make some progress towards it. More importantly, you're able to refresh your influences. I think that's a really interesting choice, and it's something that I like quite a bit because I've picked the dialogue options I did because they felt right in the moment for the character that I was playing. And sometimes it's resulted in, you acted with appetite. Well, I don't really think of Spencer as a particularly Grail-driven or particularly appetite-driven character. But it doesn't feel like I've lost something by it. It feels like maybe you've had a moment. It's a little bit like how we have our conception of ourselves. So, I like to think I'm reasonably bright. Like, not, world-shaping genius, not, the smartest guy in the room. I would, in fact, aspire to be in many rooms where I am not the smartest person because I have, I like learning and I have a lot to learn. And if I'm the smartest person in the rooms that I'm in, then maybe that has something to say about my lack of ambition than it does about my own smarts. But, I like to think for the most part, I can put a good thought together. If you give me a research project, I'm going to walk away with it and hopefully come back with something novel, or at the very least that I will derive some insight that was waiting to be discovered in the area. But I'm also quite capable of being duped, or I'm capable of making very foolish decisions. And sometimes those will be decisions on impulse. Sometimes those will be decisions, that, maybe I thought I was doing something very thoughtful, and in fact, it was the rookie mistake. Again, I don't think, I like to think that I can apply myself to problems, but I definitely does not mean that I'm incapable of mistakes. And I mean, if nothing else, streaming has revealed how I mangle sentences all the time. I also like to think that I'm maybe better at speaking and rhetoric than I display on the stream here. So the thing is that our day-to-day experience of ourselves, and certainly, games don't have to be day-to-day reflections of day-to-day experience, but the fact of the matter is, I think very few of us actually have, 100% lantern days or 100% knock days. God help us if any of you is 100% edge, right? It's like, you go into the coffee shop, it's like, hey, would you like a medium or a large? Oh yeah? Like, no, we never do that. Or actually, you know what? Some absolute sweethearts can maybe just have a bad day and they're a jerk to a customer service person, right? Like, these are not things that define our character, but individual moments, and we can sometimes learn from those moments, right? Like, I can remember in my film career in particular, there were really hard days, and there were days where I did not perform, like, at least to the level that I would want for myself. Like, I didn't completely bomb it, but yeah, like, I'm pretty sure if I was like in charge of hiring myself based on that day's performance, I'm like, don't bring that guy back. And you learn from that, right? It'd be nice if we could learn without having the bad experiences, but sometimes it happens. So, so a part of that, I think, is recognized by the fact that the game gives you more experience for failing. I also think it has this nice elegance to it, because if you're failing things regularly, maybe that means you need to augment a certain set of skills that you keep encountering. But I think the thing I like the most is that I don't usually feel like I'm missing something for picking a dialogue option. But I do feel rewarded for acting in what I think are interesting ways. I like the fact that, if I pick the right dialogue option, and when I say the right one that's consistent with the character that a passion that I've selected, and I think I have a fairly good idea of where I want to take Hobson. I like the fact that the game kind of acknowledges that, and it says, yeah, we're going to give you a little something for doing that. But it's not like, I've never run into the point where I feel like the game's sort of like, shame on you for not picking the right thing. And this is another example of it. Now, I mean, maybe I'm going to wake up and say, oh, I wish I had more lantern experience. Why did I pick changing? Well, I don't believe there was a lantern option here anyway. But, a little bit like picking picking things for the Tree of Wisdoms in Book of Hours. You have your choices. Some of them are, you may miss out on something that you would have liked, right? Choices do have consequences. But I really do like the fact, and I think this is a continuation of the things that I like about the Weather Factory games. I like the fact that the game gives me enough space to make what I think are interesting choices, and it largely stays out of the way. If it's going to do something, it's usually going to give me something for it. But I've never had a point where I can go from a choice that I made to a consequence and say, this is where the game punished me for picking the wrong thing. All right, Crucian, the heresy of choice in the New World where dissenters fled the Church's light. Its iconography includes doves, lambs, and the Crucian form on which they assert the shepherd illuminate was executed by the Roman authorities, empty to symbolize his illumination and ascent. Darlin, Amiral de France, chief etat, the undisputed ruler of a disputed state, though his anti-Icarian sympathies have won in corporate recognition for the state. Darlan's regime is still a hive of ex-collaborators, but Darlan has held elections banning Gaullist and Icarian candidates for security reasons, but reluctantly allowing women to vote and reversing les statuts des Juifs. Even the most vigorous Vichyist hardliners are more hysterical now about Revoleurs, Tarasques, and the Carapace Cross, and other hybridities known to be not only immoral, but actually contagious. I'm just going to take a quick second here. There we go. Francois Darlan was a French admiral and political figure born in Nerac. Darlan graduated from the École Navale in 1902 and quickly advanced through the ranks following his service during World War I. He was promoted to Rear Admiral in 1929, Vice Admiral in 1932, and Lieutenant Admiral in 1937 before finally being made Admiral and Chief of Naval Staff in 1937. In 1939, Darlan was promoted to Admiral of the Fleet, a rank created specifically for him. Darlan was Commander-in-Chief of the French Navy at the beginning of World War II. After France's armistice with Germany in June 1940, Darlan served as Philippe Pétain's Vichy regime as Minister of Marine, and in February 1941, he took over as Vice President of the Council, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of the Interior, and Minister of National Defense, making him the de facto head of the Vichy government. In April 1942, Darlan resigned his ministries to Pierre Laval at German insistence, but retained his position as Commander-in-Chief of the French Armed Forces. Darlan was in Algiers when the Allies invaded French North Africa in November 1942. Allied Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower struck a controversial deal with Darlan, recognizing him as High Commissioner of France for North and West Africa. In return, Darlan ordered all French forces in North Africa to cease resistance and cooperate with the Allies. Less than 2 months later, on December 24th, Darlan was assassinated by Fernand Bonnier de la Chapelle, a 20-year-old monarchist and anti-Vichyist. There was Pétain's personal standard, which is very, very suggestive if you are familiar with the images of the secret history setting. So there's the horned axe, two-headed axe, and then there's Pétain's personal standard, which has a double-headed axe as well as stars on it. But it referred to Darlan on multiple occasions, which I've never heard in reference to. I had never heard in reference to Pétain. So, like, obviously, we were in Vichy, France. Vichy, of course, is a place. It's not specifically related to Pétain. But yeah, I wasn't. I was a little curious where. I was a little curious where Darlan came in. Oh, excuse me. Duties. The mortal and immortal institutions, like the Bureau, that from time immemorial kept the hidden world from intruding into the everyday. All seems a bit pointless now, really. Okay, and I'm just gonna double check here that there's no untouched. I mean, I could do A. Oh boy. Okay, let's go through the inventory before heading out. I would suspect between Lantern and Heart, we can probably... Oh yeah, I can evolve Hollow to Compassion and Sorrow. Fascinating. I do like the idea of compassion. I also like the idea of honor, which... I am actually slightly warm to the idea of honor. Let's see some of the other options. So I can raise Bosk, Charm, Dignity, Illumination. I actually get quite a few options here. Although it is worth noting that it doesn't mean, like, I'm not, just getting one level doesn't mean a whole lot. I'm actually maybe slightly more inclined towards, yeah, you know what? We will evolve to Compassion. There's so much pain in the world, but I either have other things to worry about, and I can't stand it, and I can help. And every moment we spend to relieve it is a moment spent well. And there probably always will be. Bloody awful, isn't it? Let's get stuck in. Yep, so there is. And every moment we spend to relieve it is a moment spent well. Compassionate actions put someone else's interests ahead of my own. Evolve this to Compassion, which contributes Heart and Rose to your aspect pool. Spent 20 heart experiences, gained a passion. You are compassionate now, although people change, especially Spencer Hobson. I'm not quite ready to take this to Sorrow. Okay, clearly... Oh, here we go. Yeah. I would have thought... One summer Saturday in my first year as parish priest... Sorry, St. Millicent's Eve, Brandkrug, 1919. One summer Saturday in my first year as parish priest, I crossed the bridge to Hush House to visit the scarred survivors in the Barber's Tower there. The sun was bright, the wind was clean. I was back from the war. I was at work in the service of heaven. The Barber's Tower. Zachary Wakefield, quiet, courteous, tenacious. In those days, he was an atheist and I was not, but he would ask me to sit with him when the storms shook Hush House in autumn. They reminded him too much of artillery fire. Later, we were in the Suppression Bureau together. Much later, I learnt that something had invaded him, though I learnt too that he kept it in better check than I ever managed. Wakefield was never a happy man. The night often reminds me gleefully how much Wakefield and I have in common. Christopher. Before I'd ever left the seminary, Christopher Olopoli had already abandoned a theology degree in Perugia, published 2 worryingly successful underground books on the invisible arts, and been wounded at the Battle of the Somme. He had recovered by then, and was informally employed by the staff of the house. He seemed so much older and wiser back then. We used to argue about theology, and about his ridiculous partiality with burdock tea. Harvey. It's difficult to explain Harvey Haddington to those who haven't met him. He claimed to have consumed the only extant copy of the Fire Circle Tantra with butter and garlic. He claimed to have eavesdropped on the roost of the aviform hours. He would go into the kitchen garden of the house and return with what he claimed were transcriptions of his chats with the bees. There's only one verifiable fact about Haddington. The only verifiable fact about Haddington was that he'd flown with the RFC and been decorated after he came down behind enemy lines, but he would never talk about that. I think we're going to go with Zachary. regret, every choice has its shadow. Forge the possibility of sparks, a heat that alters. The campfire flames were bright as hair ribbons. Sorry, Eve of St. James the Greater, Corson, 1934. The campfire flames were bright as hair ribbons. The night before we met the men of the Lion in battle, and the moon a scarred and naked knife. We were joking, and when they thought I couldn't see, they were drinking, but neither could quite hide our fear. And we didn't even know then just how many of us were going to die. Oh, this is interesting. So rose influences are the only influences that don't fade on travel. So I'm actually going to lose a lot of these. But I think for crafting, I need more than just the... Now, these are how we make memories. Okay, so that's... Okay, so this is interesting. So the catalyst... Since the war, Night Arts practitioners rely on the assertions of the ministry's dolia. If I won't or can't, I can defiantly acknowledge necessity with a token of base metal backed by the older powers of Night and Bone, but it will rely on and add to that half-familiar cosmic dread. Quiet place or a shadowed place? Okay, I'm actually going to try something upstairs. Strider Owens, good to see you. Is this a game by the Cultism people? It is. This is the third video game by Weather Factory, who are responsible for Cultist simulators. So this takes place after the second game, Book of Hours. In fact, there are a number of artifacts from Book of Hours that we're seeing in this location here. This is a very early beta. And in fact, I believe this is a release candidate for the demo that will be coming out on August the 10th. So if you want to try this yourself, this should be available on the Traveling at Night page. You know what? I should actually be a good streamer and just give people the link for this. So yeah, this is a kind of a fresh take on the CRPG, so definitely inspired by Disco Elysium in the sense that it doesn't have combat, but it is also very much its own thing. I actually wasn't that long ago that I was kind of talking about some of the things that I think it's doing that is interesting and not necessarily being done by existing CRPGs. But I do just want to highlight that this is, because this is an early beta, it's definitely... It's a little rough around the edges on some cases, and there's quite a bit to be realized. But yeah, it's in the same setting. This one's on paper. This is actually probably the most interesting setting that they've picked for me, because this takes place after kind of occult World War II, the War in the World and the War in the Sun. And so there's this new, there's like, this is the beginning of the Cold War between the Golden Incorporates of the United States and the Star-Touched Ministries of the Soviet Union. So they're continuing to advance the timeline. There was Cultist Simulator, there was Book of Hours, which was getting as close as we could to this very significant event. And this is definitely in a very, like, Europe is not a great place to be. If you've ever watched The Third Man, you can sort of imagine a bit of Vienna there. And it's drawing on a lot of that. So this is a bit closer to history that I'm maybe a little more familiar with. I actually have a book on the Marshall Plan, which I kind of want to dig out and read alongside some of this. But again, it's its own thing. It's putting its own spin on it. So, for instance, we are in Vichy France after World War II, right? So it has survived in a way that it didn't in our own history, and so there's implications for that, and it in my opinion, that just makes it all the more interesting. So I took the time actually to look up that was referring to Darlan, and like in this case, it's clearly Philippe Pétain is not running things anymore, and so holy hell, sorry. It's one of these nice little things where if you take the time to look it up, you get a nice little reward for taking the time. Absolutely. And I mean, the thing that's so interesting about the secret history setting, so I think after Cultist Simulator, they just kind of created the broader setting. So in terms of products and things that reveal things about the setting, you have Cultist Simulator, you have Book of Hours, when it's released, Traveling at Night. But on top of that, there was a sort of, not exactly ARG, but like sort of like it, called the Enigmas. Those were closed down, basically because I think there was a stalker that kind of came out as a result. So, as is usually the case, it takes one person to sort of spoil it for everyone. But those were revealing additional details about the setting. There were these sort of physical boxes of letters that you could buy from the website, which also dealt with some of the setting. But in terms of like products that you can buy that are specifically like game shaped, there's also a tabletop experience called The Lady Afterwards. So there's lots of different little nooks and crannies you can find in terms of the setting. And one of the things that I really like about this, the game doesn't have a codex or an encyclopedia in the traditional way, but it has what it calls the footnote system. And it does a couple, sorry, I need to explain the alt history side of things. I'll do the alt history thing. So in the setting, there are 5 histories. It's never entirely clear which one you're in Cultist Simulator or Book of Hours. There are histories where it describes Alexander turning around at Issus rather than conquering. There are ones where the Persian Empire, outlives the Roman Empire. There are some locations that remain the same in all history, or that like are present in all history. So I think Vienna is one of them. Treowen, I think, is another one. Treowen is an actual manor in Wales. And so the thing that's fun on that is that it's not just that you have alternate histories, but you actually have kind of these competing histories and the hours sort of resolving the contradictions between them. And now that there has been, these huge wars, there are hours now which are known as uncounted. And it has profoundly upset the balance of things. And so I think the idea here is that there isn't that same sort of like clarity in terms of how the histories are being shaped or guided. And I mean, where it becomes interesting for this game for me is some people really want to be told the lore. And I think one of the things that make these games quite exciting is that they let you draw your own conclusions. But one of the most common requests I get on something like YouTube will be people asking for lore videos. And to me, it's hard because I think the enjoyable thing about the game is you putting in the work and making your own determinations. I think Weather Factory have very clear ideas about what's, quote unquote right. But I think they also had the option and declined to tell people what's what. So the footnote system I think is kind of interesting because it's not homework. You can use it, you can make certain determinations in those to get experience, which I think is interesting. But I think it's a neat way where the game has given you a little more of a direct explanation of certain things. So like the terms that maybe aren't so clear when you first play Cultist Simulator in the form of, like no and long and names, even hours, right? Like to have something referred to as an hour, you're usually thinking of time. But when it has a capital H and you are seeing that one of the hours is the Watchman, obviously you're not just dealing with something on a clock. And so, in the footnote system, they'll just come right out and say, okay, a no is one of these things. But it's still given you enough space to kind of run around and learn new things. If anything, it's just sort of establishing that floor for you to sort of move up and beyond. So in that sense, I kind of like the fact that there's sort of this developer-sanctioned way of getting a few clear answers to things while still giving people a full game of stuff to try out. But anyways, yeah, so the alt history stuff is fun just in the sense that like the secret histories, at least until the Great Cataclysm described in this game, has five histories for you to sort through. And in this case here, I think the alternate history Cold War is even more interesting. Also because I was toying around for a while with my own alternate history Cold War, completely failing to appreciate that Weather Factory was working on its own occult one. So, and Stefanos85 here says being lost and discovering is central to the mechanics in Cultist Simulator. Absolutely, it's one of the reasons why I engaged in it so heavily when I first played it. And I thought it was interesting to see Book of Hours do it in a gentler way, but still allow people to do that exploration. Whereas this is much closer to a more mainstream game, and so I think is willing to sort of state things plainly a bit more. But in the name of giving people those individual choices and experiences in terms of the game. So it doesn't completely reveal everything because some of them are going to be, character choices that you make to sort of shape who you are. All right, turn on the dark. I'm afraid of the light. Something that was here has been erased by a shadow. A map? A painting? There's nothing there for you, and be glad of that. Come talk to Sinombre, you poor silly thing. The shadow is its own kind of substance. It almost drips darkness. So our intention is to travel, and the game did tell me that only Secret Histories influences survive travel. So I'm going to start with Acknowledge Necessity. Since the war, night arts practitioners rely on the assertions of the Ministry's Dolia. If I won't or can't, I can defiantly acknowledge necessity with a token of base metal, backed by the older powers of night and bone. But it will rely on and add to that familiar half-cosmic dread. So, catalyst, add an ingredient with aspects. The recipe will not consume it. Dread, fear has its teeth in my hopes. As dread increases, Spencer will suffer penalties. At 10 dread, misery will overwhelm him, ending the game. When Spencer rests, fascination and dread will cancel each other out, but anything left over may cause difficult dreams. And under influence, add an ingredient with aspects winter. The recipe will consume it. So our options here are influence winter, a deadening chill, an expectation of silence, the apprehension of frost. St. Stephen's Eve, Paris 1907. Anastasis, Brandkrug 1920. Fear. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. And memory, regret. A successful working. You've created something. Click to collect it. Any catalyst ingredients are also ready to be collected. Any fuel ingredients have been consumed. Every responsible practitioner knows not to invite unwanted influence. Before you start on your next recipe, click on the results of your last recipe to collect them. Exact same people who made it, Strider Owens. So the company before Weather Factory was Fail Better Games, which was founded by Alexis Kennedy, who is one of the co-founders of Weather Factory. So after he left Weather Factory, did sort of like a Ronin year, so worked with Paradox Games and Telltale, and I think BioWare. I'm sure I'm missing others here. But yeah, so his now wife, Lottie Bevan, is the other co-founder of Weather Factory, and in fact is responsible for a lot of the art that you see. Okay. Collecting your work. If you just close the crafting menu without collecting what you've made, it'll go to your inventory anyway, but we find it satisfying to appreciate the results of our work. 4 dread is enough to make me take me from unease to despondency. All right, so I definitely paid for that. Midnight Mark. The proper use of this somber sign silences restless spirits. Improper use can trouble the sleep and health of living human spirits. Okay, Mark of Necessity, a token invested with unearthly power in defiance of Gleam's claims of cosmic prerogative, used for night arts crafting. Drag this to one of your active item slots. Using this item will help with a successful skill test and consume it, or we could put the Dolia in. Let's use our Necessity token. Creating something sinister completed. Gather experiences on the journal page. To advance another plan, I could use an item that has the Wither aspect. A Midnight Mark would be perfect. Wither, Blight, Undermine, Torment. Effective when left in someone's home or clothing, or when used to treat food and drink. Midnight Mark crafted. A Midnight Mark can quell or wither. Quell, suppress, hush, extinguish. Unlocking conversation choices that require those aspects. It'll also give a bonus to skills when placed in the active slot. Be careful, whatever you do with it, it's a one-use item. Alright, and we did cross to 4 dread. I'm wondering if there is... I'm guessing I probably can't take a bath. I'm assuming that would be the thing that would remove dread. -3 feels like a pretty heavy penalty to skills. In the corner of the room, a massive bathtub, a minimalist brass mixer tap, Parisian bath salts, clean, warm, fluffy towels. I really don't need another bath just yet. I've had my bath for the week. I will let you gaze upon this magnificent man. And we will leave without further discussion. Welcome warmth. I'm no longer chilly. The heat strikes me like a friendly fist. I'm now perspiring. All right, we're outside, so I've got my fancy hat on. But at this point here, unless there is something like brand new, I've got a whole lot of traces, so I do not want the the authorities to find me, but I think at this point we want to find the Rosamundi. There are holes in the world, by the way. Shady shelter from the sun. I'm no longer perspiring. A bit grim out here. I am now chilly. I'm wondering if chamomile might help with my dread. Monsieur? Chamomile? Chamomile. Fail with 0 is now 8. Linu approves. The familiar blossom apple taste like a gently sanctimonious aunt. Lost dread, lost fascination, down to 3 dread. I'm no longer despondent, just uneasy. That comes to 8 Francisque. Settle the bill and go. Settle the bill with flair. Settle the bill with a tiny miracle. Excuse me, madame. I reach out as if to brush something from her headband. What are you... Pluck a coin from her right ear. Pluck a coin from her left ear. Pluck a coin from her nose. Magnificent, and thank you. Lanu rolls her eyes, but she also smiles. Lanu approves +3 and is now friendly. Ironic applause from the card players table. Aristide approves and Jean Bernard approves. So I no longer have penalties to my my actions, or my rolls. I'll maybe take a minute at the Libéré des Heures, and I'll also try to travel next. The bookseller raises her gaze from the newspaper. Hello again. Let us discuss quieter business. What did you have in mind? You, the black market goods. I mean, I could buy another razor blade and actually shave for once. I think I've already got one of these, but... Barter is queen. You wouldn't usually walk into a greengrocer and try to sell them apples, but things are different since the wars, and merchants are usually up for bartering as long as you're offering something they can use or sell. Mouse over the aspects in the merchant buys block. Janvier, for instance, will buy anything tagged as luxuries or refinements. So I'm curious to see what the potential consequences for travel may be. Gaziantep, Alexandria, Istanbul, Sofia, Belgrade, Trieste, Milan, Antibes. Not an easy journey. They dynamited the pass at Nakura, and I had to slip across the border at night in a gunrunner's jeep. The station hall is almost deserted, not so many visitors to the Riviera in these times. The train runs to Mimata, and Mimata is where I'll find Nina Lagasse. The Poincaneuse waits at the barrier, moodily checking her ticket clipper. Beyond the barrier, at the platform, the train gleams and growls. So, buy tickets. Trespass in some buildings. There are doors that appear on no plan, through which only the drunk or distracted ever pass. Bluff my way through. This isn't the first time I've traveled without a ticket. Recruit Vincent to help me with the routine. Someone's left a cigarette lighter on a chair in the waiting room. Today's edition of The Sheaf lies on another chair. I could wad it into a ball, start a fire, and take advantage of the commotion. No, irresponsible and dangerous. Buy tickets to Mimata for me and Vincent. First class, 2,000 francisque for 2 tickets, 1,000 each. Crike! Upholstery, anti-massacre, and slightly less chance of official interference. Second class, 1,000 francisque for 2 tickets, 500 each. Less plush, but it'll still be a compartment, not an open carriage. Crikey! Third class, 500 francisques for 2 tickets, 250 each. I traveled third class from Alexandria, slatted wooden benches and students bawling drinking songs, sometimes cages of chickens. Just once, a small but desperately plaintive goat. I didn't get much sleep. Or, I traveled third class from Alexandria, never again. Chef, I can make a contribution, enough for a third-class ticket of my own. 1,000 each for first class, 500 each for second, 250 for third. Vincent will contribute 250 francisques. And what are your feelings on traveling third class, Vincent? Come on, we used to dig holes in the sand to sleep. If I wanted goose-down pillows, I'd have never left the sanitarium. Needs must in hard times. We'll both travel in third class, pay 250 francisques. Vincent will pay for his own ticket. The trains here are better than the Desert Express, even after the wars. Together, down the platform to the waiting carriages, board the train. Good to be on the move again. I think I might have outstayed my welcome here. Vincent approves and is now very friendly. The train's whistle shrieks with joy, and then its engines drive it forward into the night between cities. Cambron, the cat from the sanitarium. That thing really does get everywhere. I think it's possessed. He likes you, Vincent. Oh, hello. Reach tentatively towards it. What in heavens? Get out! I remember, at the sanitarium they said you arrived with Nina, didn't they? Interesting. Let's take a look at you. The cat backs away, bristle twitching, with ineffectual martinet fury, and darts off down the train. Sit forward and watch the journey. I like the music cue for this. The pewtered surface of the Baie d'Ang falls away. The rain slams the sky closed. The hills rise around us. Aspect pool recovered 1 rose. Lost 3 dread. Lost fascination. At 0 dread, my unease has dissipated. Here we go. Mimata it is. It's definitely not enough to eliminate the trace, but French state, work, family, homeland. When the French Third Republic fell, the rump government in the south joined forces with the enemy, preserving a kind of independence as l'État français. As the enemy retreated, the state switched sides and joined the Allies. So where does that leave us now? With de Gaulle and Darlan rattling sabers across a new carved border between a rump Fourth Republic and an authoritarian parafascist state. Mimata, the town in the forest, is the forest in the town now. Entry requirements, at least one of. Spencer can travel here without crossing a border, and this will remove 5 traces of my current 13. No, this will be getting a demo on August the 10th, and this is a very early beta for the game. Travel first arrivals safely across war's wasteland. Good. You don't have to enter a destination when you arrive there. You can keep moving if you have the right papers, but you'll usually want to enter. This first time, you certainly should. Pursuit 7 to 9 traces. They're getting closer. Starting at 7, there's a good chance Spencer will be arrested if he visits a station, government buildings, or anywhere else they might be watching him. At 10 traces, this becomes a certainty. Jeff? Nod. There it is, the Rosamundi. Another hole in the world. And their music smote heaven and earth, and a terror struck all living things. The train's roar fades into the distance. It echoes like beggar children. A clinging, loamy silence falls. Listen. Not quite silent. Birdsong, leaf rustle. And off from behind the post office, the faint strains of a melodeon. The circus? I've reached Mimata and I've found Rosamundi. Almost there, but not yet. You are Spencer Hobson, Sylvian Hussier, Father Brass, hollow of spirit and brazen of heart. This has been the Traveling at Night demo. We are Weather Factory, Lottie Bevan and Alexis Kennedy, and we look forward very much to bringing you the whole game. Applaud graciously. That was okay. No, I want more. Or, what was that bit with the cat? Bravo. Acted with passion, honor. Yes. Exactly, yes. Honor was definitely what I was going to be moving Spencer towards. Demonstration concluded. Europe awaits. Mimata, where the red nuns look down on the beasts of the town. Cain, where the new king's catafalque smolders. Mahogany under its amber. Berlin, red litten. Prague, cross-hived, with its stairway ever down, and at last your final destination. You're the one who passes every door. Conjure your new self. Confess your schemes. and just when they think they have the measure of you, disappear. Think someone else might enjoy this? Send them the link so they can wishlist it or try the demo. Which I will remind all of you, August 10th, you get a chance to try this yourself. I am really, really happy I got a chance to do this. It's also short enough. I mean, it took me like 3 streams, but that's more of a me thing. It is really interesting to play a game that doesn't have the Mickey Mar soundtrack. So, I will set some expectations off of this. This is going to be, it's a very early look at the game. I will basically say I don't fully get that much of the crafting system. I'm really interested by the idea that influences go away on traveling, because I actually feel like there's not a whole lot for me to make relative to the number of things that I get. But I also, it doesn't matter, right? If I'm going to be spending all the time in Antibes, then it's, I'm really just going to be sitting there drinking in the atmosphere. And on that front, I really think this is delivering on exactly what people want to see. Like, if I think this is going to be one of these things where people will say, oh, Weather Factory doing a CRPG. This is clearly what they've always been meant to do. And I mean, I think this developer is so interesting because they are willing to do something new and interesting. They are going to be giving the audience what they want, but without necessarily knowing that they want it. But this game does also, this game does seem to be that reflection that I think they've brought up in the past of saying that really the games that they make tend to be fighting the Steam algorithm, right? Like, if you say, I want to play a card game, you're thinking Hearthstone, you're not thinking Cultist Simulator. We're saying, I want to play a cozy game, okay, fine. But when you look at Book of Hours, it's not necessarily going to scream cozy at you at the start. And so I think Traveling at Night definitely looks like what you would expect from a CRPG by a developer very well known for their narrative work. And likewise, I think because there are things like Disco Elysium, I think the 3 inspirations that they've mentioned for the game are Shadowrun Dragonfall, wonderful game, by the way, if you've not tried it. All of the Shadowrun games are great, but Dragonfall and Hong Kong in particular are really, really strong entries. Planescape Torment, which probably requires no introduction. I think that's definitely a very influential CRPG for a lot of people who either enjoy playing CRPGs or would go on to make them. And then, of course, Disco Elysium. But as is always the case with talent, this is very much its own thing. So definitely take that idea of influences as opposed to, I mean, I guess the term disco-like is running around now, but this is its own thing, and I'm going to say, and maybe this is just a signal that maybe I shouldn't be playing CRPGs. This is one of the cases where I have a CRPG with a much bigger world than is necessarily available in the individual dialogue options. And I actually want to take the time to learn more about it. And there are some very good games which, you want to kind of mow the grass as far as the dialogue options. You don't want to miss out on stuff, but you're also sort of like, my God, are you going on? I always keep joking about the Warhammer 40k wiki and just how it desperately needs an editor. And sometimes CRPG settings can be like that. This game, on the other hand, I did mention the footnote system, and I think they're doing something interesting with that. I also think the footnote system is giving people a bit more of what they want in terms of understanding more of the secret history setting in direct terms without necessarily, how do I put it? Without without like giving it all away, or without telling you necessarily what to think in a grander sense. So I think it's another one of those reflections of, I think they have a good idea of what their audience wants, and they're not necessarily giving them everything. They're still allowing that degree of originality and to sort of make their own mark on the genre. But I think in this case here, they are clearly satisfying some demands that have existed essentially since their earliest games. So again, if you are looking for combat or mechanics or any of that, I'm going to argue that this is probably not going to be the one that scratches that itch. I also don't think it's ever been marketed that way. I think if somebody's going in with an expectation in terms of the role-playing mechanics, it's not there. That's not a knock on it, by the way. I think the fact that it has like its set pool and that you get more rewards from failure than success, although the individual event maybe isn't the, maybe the individual event isn't, like you're not going to get the rewards for that. You're going to get the rewards of learning. I don't think for me at least, that's the first time I've seen that in a CRPG, and I think that's an interesting system. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting world full of interesting characters. If anything, I would have liked to have learned a little bit more about some of the residents of the Sanitarium Aujourd'hui. And the one thing I will say, though, is that I cannot escape the feeling that I've been given just a little glimpse on a very ambitious and very interesting game. Like, the real driver of my interest here is I want to know more about this world. I want to know more about dying Europe, and I want to know more about the ministries and the incorporates. From what I understand, there are different endings, and you can side with either of them or remain independent. I actually really want to know. I want to try and get a read on how I even feel about those things, because my sympathies would normally be with the incorporates, but some of the descriptions that I'm seeing of it maybe would make me question that. But above all, and I think this is probably one of the most important parts for RPGs, and I would argue it seems like such a basic thing, but from my memory, I'm not entirely sure every RPG has satisfied this, but if you think about what makes stories good and interesting, right? The character, and ideally that change for the character, that movement over time. I really want to know what my Spencer Hobson's going to become. I want to, right? I filled in that compassion. So I had a really clear idea that the passions that would be driving that character would be cynicism, compassion, and honor. And I think a lot of people would look at that and see those as potentially even contradictory. But I see quite a bit. I see quite a bit there that makes me say, no, I have a really clear idea who this guy is. And even the idea in terms of the different professions that you can pick, like there are some of the ones that I think are interesting to me, and then there are the ones that I like consider a little bit closer to myself or my core. And so the last thing I'll say about this that really interests me is that I feel that the little personality test they give you at the start of Book of Hours, where you pick your elements of the soul and that determines your legacy, I feel like they have expanded that really interesting idea into something that I don't know if it'll last for the full game, but this idea of the passions, the idea that you are, you're going to be like refilling your influences, your ability to re-roll certain things. There's like a mechanical reason why you want to do that, but you are playing to a certain character. There are rewards for doing that. I just, it's interesting on its own to be someone who's hollowed out by worms, and you get to find out the implications of that and who you are. But this idea, moving to a named character like Spencer Hobson, but still kind of having that empty vessel to pour myself into. I think that's a really nice middle ground between the character that we've played in the previous Secret Histories games and what you would normally expect from a CRPG. And for me, at least, when I play CRPGs, one of the things I really love is having an idea of who that character is. I did that for Mass Effect. I sort of did that for Tyranny. And just making decisions I think are interesting and seeing what kind of character comes out. And in some cases, it sort of feels like the game maybe isn't on rails, but, it didn't really feel like I was learning that much about the character. It was fun to do, but largely a lot of what was going on was happening in my head. I actually quite like Mass Effect because the idea I had for the character wound up being very much aligned with where the ending went, so I thought that was a nice little coincidence, or maybe we're just kind of on the same wavelength. But what I really liked about Traveling at Night and the character that you have and this idea of discovering the character is that, at least the impression I'm getting and what I felt like when I was doing the individual dialogue, I did feel a certain degree of authorship over the character. And I get the impression here, even though we're clearly in the hands of a very talented writer, I at least get the impression of having a bit of authorship over the character myself. I think that is something that you would think would be required in a CRPG, but I actually don't get that distinct feeling of as often. I enjoy the games, but I just don't necessarily feel that a lot of the character traits or a lot of the personality traits necessarily come across in the character, that I'm more of an assemblage of stats than a personality. And I feel that Traveling at Night is putting that personality back into the character. And, I think that's something that you can afford to do when you're saying, we're not going to worry about combat in this, and we're going to focus on character and exploring a setting. But again, this is where having an interesting developer, even though they're maybe making something a bit more mainstream, the idea that they're able to put their stamp on it and show us maybe a few corners of the genre that haven't been explored, I think is really exciting. So I'm very eager to hear what people think of the demo when it comes out on the 10th. I might spend a little bit of personal time, hopefully being a better citizen on the beta. But in general, I would say, I'd love to hear what people think of Traveling at Night when they get a chance to play it. I do intend to do more of the beta as it becomes available. It definitely sounds like, when they say this is the release candidate and it's going to shut off, like I'm going to assume that I'll be playing the demo for a bit. We can do another round, maybe different legacy, different, maybe I'll do a little more crafting at the start. There's a few things I can try. But I'd say maybe, assuming that there's going to be some distance between now and, or maybe let's say at the end of the demo and when there'll be like new material to see on stream, maybe what I can do is we'll do more Zephon, and I want to do more Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop. But we may set aside Traveling at Night for a bit until there's more to see. But either way, I mean, it's nice that we got this done tonight, just simply because I'm going to be watching Mulholland Drive on Friday, so can't stream. If I do stream, it'll be like middle of the night, and I think it'd be good to get a proper night's sleep. Anyway, I think I'm babbling. I hope you all had a good time with the extended run of the demo. I really, really liked this, and I'm hoping that I could at least convey some of the things that I personally found very interesting about this. But once the link is in the chat, once it's available on the 10th, I think this will be a chance where you can form some of your own opinions. And at the very least, if you want to follow the development of the game, I can say that you can, first of all, wishlist on that Steam page. You can go to weatherfactory.biz and you can sign up for their newsletter. And then they also do, they've lowered the cadence of the podcast, but they do also do a podcast called Skeleton Songs, where they used to talk a lot about the influences, but they've actually been talking quite a bit more about the development of the game. And so for those of you that do find sort of behind the scenes material on game development interesting, I think being able to hear the developers talk about the game that they're making while they are making it, I think is a rare opportunity to hear it. I mean, in this case, you're going to be able to hear the developer make it. Insofar as I'm able to share stuff from the beta on the stream, you'll be able to see some of those changes implemented. And for me, this is bringing me right back to some of the stuff I liked doing about Cultist Simulator. I was able to see way back when you'd get a Forge lore, and it was originally called an Ardent Prayer, and then one day you see them do the Thesaurus Pass, and it became an Ardent Orison. It's neat to be able to see those kinds of changes and to see what, sometimes there'll be funny lines that go away. And I always like funny stuff. I generally feel that if you get a chance to be funny or silly, take the chance. But that's clearly not the decision that everybody makes. And so it's interesting to see when some people, or it's interesting to see where the things that I think are finished work become or turn out to be temporary, or there'll be one term and then you see another one and you're like, ooh, that's a much better way of saying that thing. It's just really neat to be able to see those small changes over time and notice them. So for those of you that find that interesting, one, I would encourage you to try the demo, because that's a chance for you to see it on its own. But that is also one of the reasons why, where I can, I'd like to share a little bit more of this game, even if it means doing lots of repetition over the different parts. Okay, I have worn out my welcome, so I hope you all have a good evening. I'm sorry it's just going to be one stream this week. I will be back to a proper schedule in next week. But it's a rare chance for me to see Mulholland Drive on the big screen, so I'm going to take it. And I have got nobody to host. How on earth did that happen? Just give me a second here. Hey, Revive Snow. Did you get a chance to see any of the finale? Nobody's playing Weather Factory games. You were watching since someone said not watching? Oh. For those of you who don't know Revive Snow, lovely fellow Canadian broadcaster, lover of lore, knows more about the Warhammer 40k setting than I ever will. Also, user of lovely frog emotes, which always puts a smile on my face. So, anyways, thank you everybody for watching. I'm sorry I don't have anything to raid you off to, but I hope you all enjoy this demo when you get a chance to play it. I should be back on Monday. We will be back to our Zephon run as one of the voice factions. Definitely a rough start for me, but it's always interesting to see if I can pull that out of the fire. And I guess at that point you'll all be enjoying this game, so I will not expect a large attendance on it. But I'll probably be playing the demo everybody else is on the Wednesday and Friday. And again, unless there's something new for me to show in the game, I will probably I'll probably do some Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop on either the Friday or maybe the Wednesday following. But we can figure that all out when it comes up. Also, I'm hopefully in the home stretch on the work trouble. So my hope will be when September 1st comes around. I actually had a conversation. It's not like somebody who's in a hiring role for me, but someone who I will probably be working with. I had a great conversation with them, and they straight up said, "Is like, why aren't you working for us?" I said, "Well, um, funny you should mention that." So I'm hoping there isn't any funny business on this transfer, because like it is so obviously such a good fit where I'm heading off to, but still need to make sure all the paperwork's in and, you know, deal with the various personalities involved. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you know, the month is still young. All right. This is turning into a personal blog again. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. I know it's early for me to say that, but I will see you all on Monday for Zephon. Do enjoy traveling at night when you get a chance to play it. Till then, take care.